that I started this journey, and I can't wait to be purchasing my next property. Like next year, March, April, be on the lookout for property number 2. So you can do it. You can be successful. There is financial freedom in real estate. I wholeheartedly believe that. Once I retire, hey y'all, it's your girl Ashley, and welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos. So in today's video, I'm giving you guys 10 tips if you are thinking about getting into real estate investing. So as you guys know, if you follow me, and if you don't follow me, you know now, James and I just recently purchased an investment property that we're utilizing as a short-term rental. So I wanted to come on here and make this video for all of my beginner investors like myself, and just kind of give you guys some tips that I wasn't aware of when I first started this journey and this process. But before we get into this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed, and make sure you go follow me on Instagram. And so without further ado, let's just jump right into this video. Tip number 1, first thing that you have to do is you have to first develop a plan. So what type of properties are you trying to get into? Or do you want to be a traditional landlord and have long-term rentals? Do you want to do short-term rentals? Are you flipping properties? What exactly are you trying to do? For us, I knew from the very beginning, my plan was to buy properties, distressed properties at that, properties that they were going to be cheaper in price, but they were going to need work to be done. So I was like, I'm going to get into distressed properties. I'm going to rehab them, make them look amazing, and then I'm going to use them for short-term rentals and post them on platforms like VRBO, Booking.com, Airbnb. That was my niche. That's what I knew that I wanted to do. So that's step number 1. You have to have a plan. You have to know what it is you're getting into, or you know what specific area or realm you want to invest in. And then in addition to that, you need to think about location and what market are you trying to target. So for me, I live in San Antonio. This is a huge military town. So I knew right offhand that I wanted to target areas around military bases. It worked out for me because in San Antonio, the Air Force boot camp is located here. So I said my very first property, or our very first property, is going to be as close as we can get it to Lackland Air Force Base, because that is where families travel every week to see their airmen graduate. So you got spouses coming, you got grandmothers, grandfathers, cousins, friends. Family is traveling every week. Every week there's a graduation. So that was the market that I wanted to target. So you have to figure out, do you want to target like beach cities? You want to be in like the Florida area or the like Galveston area where people go to the beach and travel, the Corpus Christi area? Do you want to target like Joshua Tree in California where people go to like Palm Springs and maybe they want to stay in Joshua Tree? So figuring out your market, figuring out your location, and coming up with a plan of what type of real estate investing you really want to get into. So tip number 2, capital, money, saving. So you came up with a plan, you already kind of know where you want to be at, what market you want to target, you have all of that. So the next thing you have to do is you have to figure out, okay, where is the money going to come from? How am I going to fund this project? Do I need to set, how much money do I think that I need to save? Am I willing to spend? How much money do I have to spend? Am I going to pay for this cash? Am I going to try to get like some type of bank loan or some type of loan? Like, what's my funding? You have to know that. So tip number 2 is going to be all about the money, all about the fun. Tip number 3, you want to figure out, are there any permits required? Are there any specific laws that landlords have to abide by, depending on what area you're trying to go into? If you are trying to go into short-term rental, you need a short-term rental permit. in San Antonio, and I think in most cities, they will only allow a certain amount of short-term rental properties in an area. You will have to do your due diligence to figure out if there are short-term rental permits required and canvass that area to see, are there a lot of short-term rentals already in that area? If there are certain landlord laws that you have to abide by, you want to look into that. If you're flipping homes and there's certain, like, houses have to meet certain codes, you want to make sure that you know what are the new codes or what are the new laws. So that's going to be tip number 4. You need to find a real estate investing agent, not a traditional agent. You need to find someone who strictly deals with real estate investing. So for me, the agent that we used to build this house, we didn't use her for our short-term rental property. We contacted her and we asked her, hey, do you know any real estate agents who specialize in investment properties? She gave us a point of contact, and here we are. That is super important for you to understand, because there are things that a real estate investing agent or investor agent will know that a traditional real estate agent is just not aware of. So you don't want to have someone who only deals with traditional home buying to be trying to help you find an investment property, because there's a lot that goes into investment properties that you just will not get with a traditional agent. So make sure you specify, or you are specifically looking for an agent that specializes in investment. Number 5 is funding. How are you going to fund the property? Are you paying cash for the property? Are you going to use a VA loan? Are you going to use a traditional loan? Are you going to use an FHA loan? Are you going to use hard money? So there are so many different funding options, and each option is going to require a different set of requirements. So you need to know what those requirements are, but you need to narrow down what makes the most sense. And this is where having an agent that is experienced in investment properties come into play. So my agent, she was able to introduce us to a whole nother world that I never even heard of. I didn't know what a hard money lender was. I didn't know what they did. I didn't know it existed. I had no idea. So when we first started looking for properties, we were going to go the hard money route. Hard money lending is essentially like cash. They're like small investors who just have the cash on hand, and they're going to give it to you, and you don't really have to go through the process of all of the steps that you would go through with a bank. And then your credit don't have to be as good. But you pay a higher interest rate on the money that they loan you, but you're only going to be in that loan for a short period of time. But hard money lending is a whole different story for a different day. My agent has agreed to come on my channel and do a video all about hard money lending, because when hard money lending works, it works, and it works well. And you could essentially come to the table with nothing down. But again, I can't even get into the process, but just know that's an option. Look it up, do your research on hard money lending. But that was going to be an option, but that wasn't going to be the best option for the house that we chose and for the deal that we was going into. The VA loan could have been another option, because my VA loan is available for use right now. We have another home in Virginia, which is a long-term rental. And I originally bought that house with my VA loan like years ago. And then once the interest rates dropped, I refinanced that house into like a traditional loan, because I was using it as a investment property and a long-term rental. So I couldn't use the VA loan because I wasn't going to be living there. So when I refinanced it into like an investment property type loan, and it freed up my VA loan. So we could have used the VA loan, but with the VA loan, there are certain stipulations, and one of them is that you have to live in the home for a year before you can rent it out or use it as an investment property. So we knew that we weren't going to be living in that house at all. We were strictly buying it to use it as a short-term rental immediately. So we was like, yeah, well, you know, the VA loan is not going to be an option. So we kind of went the traditional route, and we ended up putting $20,000 down. Another reason, not $20,000, we put 20% down, and it equated to about $30,000 down because the house that we purchased was like $150,000. So that's another reason why the funding part of, not the funding, but thinking about your money from the very beginning, like already kind of having money to the side, because you may have to go the route that we did and put down 20% or 10%. You may not be able to utilize your VA loan. So what happens when that's not an option? So just figuring out the money piece. How much it's going to cost to purchase the house? How much it's going to cost to rehab the house? All of these things are things that you have to think about when you're in step number 2 and you're thinking about how much will this cost me, and worst case scenario, if I have to put some money down and I have to rehab the house for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you know, where am I going to get this money from? You know, do I need to save for another year or 2 before I can take this on? So like tip number 6, lender. So now you have your agent, you have the money, you up to step number 6, where now you need to figure out who are you going to get if you are not paying cash for this property. Who are you going to get to fund this project for you? So our agent referred us to a lender, and then our hard money lender that we were originally going to go with, she has a traditional lender that she works with. Because with hard money lending, like I said, you're in this loan for a short period of time, and immediately after the project is like pretty much done, you're gonna refinance out of that short-term hard money loan into a traditional loan. And so she had already put us in contact with a traditional lender. So we kind of went between both of those, the person that my agent referred us to, and then the person that our hard money lender referred us to. And we had them give us like loan estimate sheets, and we compared like, okay, this person is charging us this much for this, and for the most part it's going to be the same, but there are some things that vary, and there were some things where it just made more sense for us to have gone with the lender that we went with, because it was going to cost us less, and the interest rate that they was offering was less than what the other agent was offering. So do your due diligence, shop around for your lenders, and pick who's going to be best for you. Tip number 7. So now you have your lender, you have your agent, you have the money, you have all of that. You need to find a property. So tip number 7 is going to kind of be loaded. It's kind of going to be like tip number 7, tip number 8. So find a property, and this is where your agent comes into play, because an agent that is experienced in investing properties, they're going to be able to find you the off-market properties. They're going to be able to find you the properties that maybe they have investors that they've worked with in the past, and those investors are trying to get rid of some of their properties. They're going to find you the properties that's not necessarily on Zillow. They're going to just find you the best deals. They have connections. They know, they're in contact with wholesalers. Whatever the best deal is for you, your agent will find it for you. So find you a good property, and in conjunction with that, you have to find you a good contractor around the same time. Because when you and your agent find the property, you want to have your agent, this is super important, have your agent put in your contract, you want a certain option period. So an option period just allows you to kind of have a space or a time frame where you can really decide if this is really going to be a good property for you financially if it's going to make sense. So we had a 5-day option period. So within that time frame, we were able to find a contractor, and what we did was we actually utilized, again, this is why having the right agent, it alleviates a lot of like headaches and a lot of legwork. Because my agent was already experienced in investment properties, because herself and her husband had already flipped multiple properties. That's the type of person that you want to have in your corner. They had already flipped multiple properties and have multiple rentals, so they already had a contractor that they utilized for their property. So my agent was able to send us that information and say, hey, I can vouch for this person. They've done these houses for me, showed me pictures or whatever. So within that option period, we had an inspector come out and we had the contractor come out. The inspector can come out and tell you like, hey, you're gonna need a new roof. Hey, this plumbing is messed up. Hey, this is wrong, whatever the case may be. So even though the house was listed for $150,000, the inspector is gonna come and put things in perspective. Like, yeah, this is the price, but you're looking at maybe about $15,000 of foundation work, roofing work, plumbing work, electrical work, that type of deal. So it gives you, a better perspective of, can I really afford this? Is this the right deal? Your contractor can come out there during that time frame and you tell them, hey, this is what I want done. I'm thinking about gutting the whole place. I want to get new cabinets, new flooring. I want hardwood. I want this type of shelving. I want a new roof. I want new sliding glass doors. And your contractor can give you a bid like, hey, this is what my estimate is. So now you have an estimate of how much the work is going to cost, and you have all the things that's, for the most part, that's wrong with the home that you can already put on your radar, that I'm going to have to fix these things, or I can ask the seller to fix these things for me type deals. Whatever, and the seller may come back and say, no, I'm not fixing anything. So, but you have that option period in your contract where you're not bind it to the contract. You can decide whether you want to stick with the deal or move on, because to the naked eye, it may look like a good investment property, but once you get that contractor and that investor in there, if you've already said my budget is only going to be $50,000 and that's for a down payment and a rehab, then it will give you more insight that this property is probably not going to work. Tip number 9. So now you found the property, it's a good deal, you got your lender, your contractor, everything is set in place. Now the deal is almost closing. Like, not the deal hasn't closed. It's gonna take time for the deal to close, but you've kind of like got through all the steps of what needs to be done. So now you can start to have a little fun and go on Pinterest, go on YouTube, get inspired, figure out what your color scheme is going to be, figure out what type of furniture you want. You're going to have themed bedrooms. All of these things need to start happening, because once you get to like closing, it's a done deal. Like, the rehab process is going to start. So you already kind of want to have a general idea of what the vision of this long-term rental or short-term rental or this flip is going to be. And depending on what you're doing, they will all be different. Tip number 10, guys. We're here. We're at the end. Congratulations. You are 10 steps closer to purchasing your first investment property. I really hope these tips helped you. This is essentially what I use. I am not a real estate agent. I am not an investing agent. I am just a beginner real estate investor that wanted to share, some of the things that I did, some of the steps that I took, some of the things that I didn't know prior to getting into this, prior to starting this journey. And then I have one bonus tip for you guys. So when we're talking about funding and we're talking about the contractor, one of the things that we did to help us out, because again, like I told you, we put a $30,000 down payment. So that was a nice amount of cash for us. And we still had to fund the rehab. So what we did was we kind of negotiated and talked with our contractor. So this is another thing that you can do when you're shopping around for contractors. Like, we went with our contractor because our agent could vouch for him. If it was somebody that, wasn't referred to us, we would have shopped around. And you can do that. You should do that. Have a company come out, have a company come out, get a bid with them, have another company come out, get a bid with them, have a third company come out and get a bid, just so you can kind of compare. That's important. So anyways, what we did was we kind of negotiated, or not even really negotiated, we just asked our contractor, could we purchase our own supplies? And so to alleviate us having to pay for labor and supplies, because they'll factor, like, what we paid what we're paying our contractor would have been a lot more had we just let them purchase all the supplies. We applied for like a Home Depot renovation loan, or I don't know what it's called, but it's not like a Home Depot card. It's specifically for like renovations. So check that out. If you're in the market, there's always an option. You can go that route. And so they approved us for a nice amount. And so what we did was we utilized that to purchase all of our supplies. So we had, our bid was strictly just the labor cost, and we paid for the supplies. Now, there were things that we didn't or we couldn't get at Home Depot that our contractor had to get, and we just had to pay him for that in addition to labor or whatever. But it was far few in between. But there were some items that Home Depot did, like there was some towel, like a specific towel that I wanted that we couldn't get from Home Depot. So we had to go to like Floor and Decor, and my contractor went there and got all of that stuff, and we just kind of, paid for him. So it was certain things that Home Depot did not have. But anyways, I'm saying all of this to say there are different avenues that you can, get creative with or whatever to fund your project and to get started. You just don't want to be the person that's like, oh my gosh, I want to do it, but I'm scared, I'm nervous. You have to be cautious, but you gotta just go for it. If you never go for it, it's never gonna happen. I think this was probably one of the best decisions that I have made. We are close to the finish line. I may even insert a couple of pictures of the kitchen. Maybe I'll insert some before and after pictures of the kitchen or the bathroom or something in here, just so you guys can see. But again, it was the best decision I ever made. I'm so happy that I started this journey, and I can't wait to be purchasing my next property. Like next year, March, April, be on the lookout for property number 2. So you can do it, you can be successful. There is financial freedom in real estate. I wholeheartedly believe that. Once I retire in 3 years, that's all I want to do is real estate. I just want to be investing and buying up the block. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. I hope you guys learned something that you didn't know prior to watching this video. Please feel free to comment down below if you have any questions. Find me on Instagram, hop in my DM. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Be on the lookout for the empty house tour video of this property, the furnished house tour of this video, and then I'm also going to go into another video that's like this, that's kind of not like tips and tricks, but just different things that I learned throughout this process. Not how to get through the process or in the process, but all the different things that I learned while going through it, specifically with like the renovations and things that can happen, and the pros and the cons, and the extra money that you got to come out of pocket that you didn't really budget for, and going over your budget and staying within your budget. So all of that stuff I'm going to get into in another video. So as always, I love you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.